A little bit of a different story today. I've got to do some work on my Volvo, which is normally very reliable. 6 weeks ago now, I picked up a bit of a noise on the rear end, and coincidentally, a day after that, the gearbox broke. I can't think what happened to it. Something to do with my driving. Anyway, the clunk on the rear end turned out to be this. This is a torque rod or reaction arm or reaction rod, whatever you call it, and it's failed. So the metal has just fatigued through. It looks like it's been sort of weak for a long time actually. A couple of people suggested it's poly bushes that put a lot more strain on the fixings and just the hardware in general and the rest of the structure of the suspension. Another friend of mine suggested that, having replaced the bushes in these a couple of times already, I think I put some cheap rubber bushes in when I first got the car. I had to saw out the metallastic shell, which basically involves you get a hacksaw, feed the blade through, sort of grind the bush out or sort of mill the bush out as best you can with whatever you can. I tend to use nowadays is a reciprocating saw, razzes through it in a matter of moments really, just cuts out the rubber, and then use that to saw away at the shell which is inside this lug. And poly bushes, they don't have the shell, they just have the bush. It's good and strong, so it doesn't tend to need a shell, but as a consequence there's more load on the outer lug, and with the fatigue and the rust as well, it eventually just broke. Anyway, I was driving the car for a couple of days, then the gearbox broke, then it was off the road. Then my mate down at the garage, James, replaced the gearbox for me, and I said to him, can you look at the rear end whilst you're down there, and he showed me that. So anyway, I pulled that off last week, or a couple of weeks ago, probably coming up to about 3 or 4 weeks ago actually now, and then ordered these off Martin Leaf, who makes parts, does all kinds of stuff. I'm not really sure what he does for a living, but certainly handy with a welder, and he's made a lovely job of those adjustable ones. So because my car's lowered 40mm on lowering springs, it's already got an adjustable panhard rod made by Martin a few years back, and this is the sort of remaining piece of the puzzle in terms of adjustable setup for the back end. So yeah, I've set those to, apparently I've measured it, adjustable, checked. The standard length centre to centre is 395mm, so I've set those to 390mm. I kind of figured it would be shorter than standard. See, I'm gonna have to stick them on there, and then apparently you measure the pinion angle versus the output shaft angle on the gearbox, and they've got to be you're aiming to get those in line as best you can, really parallel, so with the car sitting on the flat. So what I'll do is I'll put them on, just eyeball it really for the starters, for the wheel position, drive the car, see how it feels. I don't think 5mm are going to make that much difference really, and then when I get an opportunity I'll ask James if I can chuck it on the ramps at work where he works and just check the pinion angle versus the output shaft on the gearbox angle as well. So anyway, I'm going to do that now. I mean, you know, shouldn't take too long really, all things considered. You know, on paper it's a very simple job. A couple of nuts and bolts, well, one bolt, 2 nuts and a nut and a bolt, and then pull the old unit off and put the new one on. But I did struggle with this one because the bolt was actually just sort of on this end was seized in this bush on the in the do you call that? A centre pin. Look, what do you call that? I don't know. In this tube, it was seized in there, and it took some brainial work to suddenly realise if I juice it up with a bit of WD-40 it would come out. Anyway, I'm going to do that now. Right, it's a little bit of a tip. If anyone is struggling to do this, now obviously when you're putting shorter rods on than standard, these are the adjustable ones, and I've set them 5mm shorter than the original ones, which is just a rough guess really. I mean, it's not going to be a massive difference, but at the same time it's not going to be too much, I don't think, from, you know, what it should be. So what I've done, because the problem I think that happens is the holes, obviously the rods are shorter. I've done this, I've sorted it. I've been really struggling because this hole obviously is further back that way. The angle of the axle is cranked back, and with the shorter rods they're just not going to line up with the holes. So what I've done, got an enormous pair of Stilsons, so like a 2-foot Stilson wrench, cranked it onto that lug there, which I don't know what that's even for, some thing, don't even know, just on the side of the diff casing there. I'm not going to do it again because I've just done it and it's come right. I've just put that on there, tightened it up as tight as I can, and I just pulled it and it just went and moved, and now it's basically clocked round in them. So I think I got as far as about here before my phone decided I was trying to watch YouTube instead of making a video. So just in the middle of the picture there, that's the bush, the trailing arm bush. So those, obviously the axle will rotate in those bushes, and that's what you're trying to do really, and it's seemingly impossible to do on your own without a lift, without, you know, with a drive that's sloping away at 10 degrees or whatever. Not the ideal circumstances. But anyway, initially I was thinking I'll put the Stilsons on the tube itself, on the axle tube, but the brake lines are in the way. The cable there for the handbrake, that goes through that tube there underneath, and then obviously you've got your hydraulic lines there, and then the anti-roll bar's in the way as well. So that lug there is a good solid clamping point to put your clamp on, your Stilsons on. Use a great big bloody adjustable spanner instead if you haven't got a Stilsons, or even like a big fast clamp or something like that would do it, I think. Sorted.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
It just went, I just put the thing on and went, and it just went.
See you later, Mark.
See you later.